Okay, I know you guys are probably thinking that why are you able to actually upload this on a different day? Like, I'll get into more details about that whenever we're able to get this recording started, but I digress. Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I am of course back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64 / Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and Xbox Series X. So, last time we have managed to able to 100% for everything in terms of Clonker's Cavern, and overall that was actually a pretty alright world, at least even then though I managed able to win for that particular world really fast. So today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be moving on to the next world, which is the 4th world in the game, which appears to be Bubblegloop Swamp. And basically, the entire purpose of this world is, well, swamp themed. And, well, before we get into the actual world, I need to, you know, try to unlock the actual next move for Banjo and Kazooie, which appears to be by the forms of this little welly boots. And you're probably thinking to yourself about the fact that why I'm actually going to be exiting this world. Well, the thing is, there was actually that little secret if you're trying to able to exit out the world, and then trying to head back into the forms of the previous room. Oh, and by the way, if you dare touch the forms of the piranha water, as you can see, you take damage if you manage to able to get touched by the piranha water, because it's going to be filled to the brim with those piranha fishes and all that stuff. So yeah, basically as you can see, we managed able to let Kazooie manage able to wear these boots. And basically this will protect you by the forms of, well, what else? Piranha water. So because of this though, and yeah, there's not much else to say when it comes to that specific move, and I think it may actually be useful again until on, well, let's just say on the 6th world, which I don't think we can able to talk about that for the time being until specifically later on throughout the week, but for now on, we'll activate the forms of the next new world, but it wasn't until whenever we get on to tomorrow's video, because, well, as you can tell, we've actually unlocked Freeze's Peak, which appears to be by the forms of a winter-themed world. And basically, if you're trying to able to do this with Banjo and Kazooie, as you can see on screen, I managed able to break the Icicle Block. And basically, that allows me to able to progress for this tiny hole. Now, you can't able to actually go through there, obviously, with Banjo and Kazooie as a normal size, because I get the feeling that the next world we're going to be running into right now, you know, Bubblegloop Swamp, will actually contain the forms of the second transformation. Like, we haven't done that much transformations for quite some time, ever since in Mumbo's Mountain. At least we did manage to transform into the termites, so I wonder what transformation we might come across into in this world. Well, it wasn't until whenever we keep on collecting more of those, you know, Mumble tokens and stuff like that, which, from the record, I think we already collected quite enough of it though. Well, at least we still need to grab some more, in case if we're about to be low on new forms of, you know, Mumble tokens during the future. So because of this though, yeah, how's everyone doing? Basically today's day is of course the, Monday the 24th of May today, in this case in 2021. Now you guys are probably gonna say that, are you supposed to be able to upload Banjo-Kazooie videos during the course of Tuesdays and Thursdays? Well, for the time being, since that you know how recently Maxi has already finished up with his Let's Play of Donkey Kong 94 ever since in last Friday, and also that recently yesterday that Tiana, she managed able to finish up with her Let's Play of Mario Party 4. And then we're actually going to wait until Mario Party 5, during at some point at the beginning of June if possible. So in this case though, I think suffice to say, since that these two Let's Plays are now finished, I think we'll probably be going to be focusing on Banjo-Kazooie from now on. So because of this though, this will actually be a multitude of uploads in regards to the forms of Banjo-Kazooie Let's Play. So because of this though, yeah, I feel like trying to do that for the sake of the whole entire convenience that is. Especially notable because, well, after all, that we're now onto the halfway point in terms of the forms of, well, To be more specifically, the halfway point of the redo Let's Plays of any Mario Party games, specifically the Hudson Soft Mario Party games, basically. So, like, obviously we're still going to be able to do Mario Party 5 now. Well, it wasn't until whenever we get onto summer, specifically in June. And, also, we're about to be doing Mario Party 6 by the end of the year, and also, well, Mario Party 7 until 2022, and Mario Party 8 also in 2022. So, and we don't know exactly for sure just yet after those games are pretty much done. So, because of this though, and, also another thing is worth mentioning for is the fact that, recently in the UK, today, that Tom and Jerry the Movie 2021, you know, with the live-action segments here and there, that film recently came out today on DVD and Blu-ray, which, I must be honest here, I don't think I can able to actually buy that film, honestly, just because, well, it does have some, alright reviews for, you know, fans alike, but, as far as critics are concerned, they found it a bit underwhelming, which to be expected with most likely some live-action movies based off from the actual cartoons we all know and love, and it doesn't mesh well. Well, at least I think that Tiana has already mentioned about that ever since in Mario Party 4. So because of that, though, if you probably were able to find out until then, so. But I digress. Oh yeah, this is one of those moments that we have to deal with the forms of the time limit here and there, which I think we already did that ever since in Treasure Trove Cove. But at least in Treasure Trove Cove World, it's actually pretty easy. But eventually at this point and onwards though, for Bubblegloop Swamp and onwards, that most of these worlds might go a little bit more longer, especially because you're gonna have to do a lot of, you know, exploration in between. And especially noticeable about the fact that, well, usually the world gets a little bit more expansive, then, you know, I don't mind this at all. So because of this though, yeah, let's go and continue, and before we continue, we have to deal with another boss fight, which appears to be some sort of like a, well, let's just say the yellow frog enemies that we have to deal with, which, thankfully you can either take them down by either just jump and use the actual, Kazooie's beak, or you can able to use the gold feathers, which I somehow accidentally waste them all. But regardless of everything else though, is the fact that when you try to able to deal with them, the honey health pickups will able to show up if you deal with those enemies. So, yeah, pretty awesome and pretty swell if you manage to do this, my personal, method by able to just, you know, use the gold feathers and then just. Well, it's kind of hard to explain, because I know it's been a couple of days since I actually last touched upon this game since on last Thursday, so because of this though, yeah, because after all, that's, you know, E3 is almost getting closer at this point, so no negativity or anything else like that, thankfully, so because of this though, I'm still pretty much hyped in terms of the forms of how E3 is going to represent, so. But anyways, let's go and use these little shark jump abilities there, so just in case we can able to go to higher places and all that. And when we activate the Grand Tilda switch, basically that allows me to able to grab the actual Jiggy inside the actual Grand Tilda statue. So we'll focus on that later. So because of this though, I suppose another thing I should probably explain about this as well is that, actually, to be honest with you, there's not much else I can talk about, aside from, oh, jeez, that was close. I almost gonna fall off for a second there, but, thankfully I didn't, so, kudos to me. So, anyway, remember when I mentioned this before, about the fact that I've managed to able to pick up, you know, Kirby Power Paintbrush for the Wii U eShop version of the game, which usually costs quite cheaper than the forms of how it does it on physical version of the game. And one thing I totally forgot to mention is the fact that, well, aside from the fact that I've basically skipped over the purchase of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, because I did manage to play that game since 2019, and I gave up on it because that game sucks. So in this case though, I did manage to, you know, get, you know, Rainbow Paintbrush instead for Kirby, so at least I haven't tested out that game yet though, because, well, what I've noticed is the fact that this is entirely new to me, so I'm also able to do that on my own time for a bit. And then when I get the hang of it though, maybe we can probably do a let's play of that game along with, you know, Kirby Power Paintbrush for the DS, along with Kirby Mass Attack, which We're not exactly sure about that yet though, just because again, like I said before, we might as well do Kirby Star Allies next, or Kirby Triple Deluxe on the 3DS, or Kirby Planet Robobot, but it might actually took me some time to actually just try to think about it, so, but we'll get to those eventually, so don't worry. So, and also another thing is the fact that there's also another Wii U game I was planning to get, but the thing is actually a lot harder to get, and also to top it off, in the UK release anyway, is really disgustingly expensive. That game actually honor goes to the forms of Game & Wario. That game has been out for, well, that game I should say has been out for 8 years ago in Japan and North America, and as far as the European version is concerned, well, basically, it almost becomes 8 years old during that time. So because of that, though, yeah, that game is really going to be expensive now, especially because whenever I double-checked on eBay and all that stuff, when I searched on, you know, Game & Wario for the Wii U, which that was the only WarioWare-inspired game I'm missing into my WarioWare series of game collections and all that stuff, and turns out the pricing on that game is ridiculously overpriced. So, although luckily and digitally, you can actually get it digitally while it's actually in a cheaper price, but still, trying to get the physical version is actually a lot difficult than it looks, so... Which, I have to be honest here, I don't really guarantee I can able to get Game & Wario, just because I'm not a big fan of the game, because I actually kind of prefer, well, let's just say WarioWare Gold for the 3DS, because that was actually a really good one, because obviously this inspires by the actual WarioWare series I know and love, ever since in, well, my first ever WarioWare game was actually by the forms of Smooth Moves on the Wii, because it was pretty obvious because I managed to got that game along with Wii Sports, along with the actual the Nintendo Wii console. So, yeah, it seems a little bit more obvious for standard stuff for the most part. Oh yeah, here's another challenge right there. We have to do a memory game, and basically, if you're trying to, well, pay attention to where the turtles are, or to be more specifically, as you can tell, that particular character right there, as you saw, is kind of familiar, which appears to be buddy forms of Tip-Top ever since in Diddy Kong Racing, which to be expected because, well, obviously this game came out in terms of rare specific titles and all that stuff for the Nintendo 64's lifespan. This game came out after Diddy Kong Racing came out in 1997, so because of that though, yeah, it's a pretty cool touch to actually see Tip-Top in the actual game, well, despite that you can't play as him, so because of this though, whilst, you know, unlike Diddy Kong Racing from, you know, the N64 version and the DS version essentially as well, basically you can able to play as Tip-Top. So because of that though, whilst the forms of the DS version and the N64's version differences between the two is that obviously the N64 version does have Banjo and Conker as playable characters, which is pretty awesome. Although, unfortunately, the DS remake has removed those two characters, most notably because they moved on to Microsoft instead. So because of that, though, they replaced them two into, well, to be fair, Dixie Kong and Tiny Kong ever since, well, at least in the Donkey Kong Super Nintendo game trilogies and all that stuff, and Tiny Kong ever since in Donkey Kong 64, despite it was actually a pretty interesting reboot design of Tiny Kong, because as far as I'm aware, that I just have no idea why they just managed able to replace, you know, the iconic two characters from Rare, and then just replace them as in, you know, the familiar Kongs in the past. So, I totally understand that, because obviously Microsoft owns Banjo and Conker for that matter, so because of that though, speaking of Conker, actually, we still have no sign in terms of the forms of the new Conker game anywhere. Well, despite the fact that Conker's Bad Fur Day has been out for 20 years ago now, at least in the Nintendo 64 version anyway, and even though there's also the cheapest and the only alternative thing you can get, Conker's Bad Fur Day if you don't feel like trying to get the original cartridge for it because it's also expensive as well. Mainly due to the commercial failure and stuff like that. Mainly it's because it was a mature game, not a kid's game. So because of this though, yeah, you can able to actually get Conker's Bad Fur Day thanks to the forms of Rare Replay. Because that particular compilation was actually getting quite cheap every now and then. So because of that though, at least you can get that alternative at least. So, oh, and by the way, if you manage to run into the forms of the Piranha Water on foot, occasionally it will slow you down if you manage to able to walk on foot while you're trying to able to navigate for the whole entire Piranha Water. So, yeah, that's sure it's something, alright? So, oh yeah, and another thing is worth noting for is the fact that we pretty much almost towards the very end of May. So because of that though, I'm pretty much guaranteed that we've only got about 8 days left until specifically once we approach into June. So at least I'm still excited about that, especially as I said this before. E3 2021 is slowly approaching, so at least we can able to actually just get ourselves some bit of celebration going on. Specifically, if some toys might able to do Mario Party 5, or specifically if some toys else can able to do a new Let's Play or something like that, then it might be a perfect opportunity to able to discuss on quite a number of things. So, but I digress. So, oh yeah, and also another thing I forgot to mention about this as well, and along the same lines as when Maxi has totally forgot to mention about ever since in, you know, his conclusion Let's Play of Donkey Kong 94. Recently, for about 3 days ago actually, Miitopia for the Nintendo Switch has been recently came out, so not much else to talk about because it's just this, you know, the HD version of Miitopia that has been previously been released on Nintendo 3DS back in the day. So, in fact, let me know in the comments below for the question of the day. What do you think about the forms of Miitopia for the Nintendo Switch so far? Do you like it as much as the forms of the 3DS version? Or have you already got it on the 3DS version and don't bother just trying to pick up the Switch version? Or if you do, if you don't have it, then you might as well be able to get the Switch version anyway for the sake of, like, you know, much more better quality and everything, or, well, if you're not interested. So, because of this, though, honestly, personally speaking, I'm probably not gonna able to try to get the game, honestly, because, well, although I do like the concept, like, you know, playing as you meet in the RPG game nonetheless, but, usually, personally speaking, I'm still gonna have to, like, well, we've already managed to pre-order, like, you know, Mario Golf Super Rush, and I'm still able to actually able to pre-order, you know, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. So because of that, though, these are the only games I was going to be interested of, so that's just me. And by the way, we're going to get ourselves this little hexagon piece right here, and I think we are basically, or specifically the honeycomb extra piece, as you can tell. Sorry for a little bit of a bad spelling error, which I do apologize for that, because I know it has been a while since I actually did done some commentaries here and there, but regardless of everything else though, it knows what it is. So, and look at that, we come across into our second transformation, which appears to be we transformed into a crocodile. Meaning about the fact that, well, what's cool about this is that you can able to actually just have no harm if you manage to come across into a Piranha Water. So because of this though, yeah, you'll be pretty much defending instantly if you manage to hop into this water. Whilst compared to normal form of Banjo and Kazooie, basically you take a hit if you manage to able to get a little bit of a trip on that specific Piranha Water. That's just how it usually goes. So, no, still haven't heard from the forms of Cap King 74 for quite a long time, at least almost about a month ago, or to be more specifically, almost a year ago at this point, because obviously that the only upload that he still got recently is of course the announcement of Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which I'm alright with. It's just the fact that I'm getting sick of the forms of the thumbnail that he does manage to have, mainly with like Alf, I think that's what his name was anyway, and basically he just keeps on staring at you for a few seconds if you keep on seeing that thumbnail, and I was like, I'm just getting sick of that specific stare. Although, to be fair though, it is pretty cool to able to have the Switch ports of you know, the Wii U game or something like that, or Wii U ports to the Switch game, but it might be hard to explain because I know it has been a while since I actually mentioned about, you know, ports and everything else like that, because, well, obviously that we're still expecting to be hyped about, you know, pretty much everything when it comes to next month in particular, so there's no point for getting into that again, so... Oh yeah, this also means is the fact that in terms of we're going to be able to still focusing on Banjo-Kazooie, this also means is the fact that these will actually, or the next upcoming videos, are expecting to be able to be uploaded during the course of not only for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday for this week, but also the weekends as well, both on Saturday and Sunday, mind you. And also, we might able to actually just to have ourselves, well, the final 2 videos if, well, we're not gonna mention about that specific details about that right now, just because, well, you know, we're on the 4th world, so to be expected that we're not gonna spoil things anytime soon, so, yeah, anyway, so let's go ahead and deal with this next, mini challenge, or this challenge right here, and basically we need to compete against with, this red rumble crocodile right here, and your objective is pretty simple. You get out to able to eat most red nipples as you can, or yeah, you just get out to basically just get your most points, and then if you're able to get more points, then you win the actual round. I'm pretty sure you get out to do this like 3 times, like 3 rounds specifically, so because of this though, yeah, he's gonna have to win this. So, there's also this specific power-up right here, which I don't know if you're able to see it, but yeah, you can see it in transparent, so at least you can able to actually know what that power-up is, but it wasn't until whenever we get onto the 6th world that we will come across into that power-up, so... But you know, you get the suggestions by that point, so yeah, anyway, let's just go ahead and just keep on munching those little red stuff right there, which, again, I do apologize for what their names are, so because of that, though, I do apologize for that. So, anyway, so, yeah, as I said, oh wow, we somehow got 1-up if we manage to eat 35 of those little, well, just the actual, eat the red, grumblings and stuff like that. So, yeah, that seems pretty cool all in all. And now we're on to the second round, where basically, if you accidentally eat the yellow, rebellings right here, basically you get stunned. So because of this, though, you only have to eat the red ones, and that's pretty much about it. And, sometimes the only trickiest part about this challenge for me, though, is that sometimes, Mr. Vil Crocodile was actually kind of fast at one point, and he knows where specific spots of those specific, red, things that he was trying to eat, and even especially noticeable they attempt to show up in certain holes throughout. So because of that, though, definitely a bit trickier, though, especially noticeable because, well, you need to be exactly faster than you, your opponent was. So because of that, though, yeah, you just have to pay attention to that. So, and I get the feeling that I've almost gonna lose this, so because of this, though, yeah, I definitely need to able to eat, quite a few amounts. Oh, come on! Oh! But at least we're going to a tie, but tie doesn't count, so... Oh well, no big deal. So Mr. Vils technically wins? So yeah, if you manage to let him win, then he'll chase after you, and then he'd just take me a hit, so that's a bit unfair. But, luckily, though, you do have multiple attempts, so because of that, though, attempt number 2, when it comes to the second round. So, thankfully it saves your progress if you manage to able to lose that round. So, yeah, at least that's the only good thing about it. So, I digress. So, again, there's not much else to talk about, aside from the fact that, well, usually, relatively speaking, it's just the fact that we've almost nearly at the end of May, so at least expecting that I was going to be super hyped about the forms of the next coming weeks, so even then, though, still, we already mentioned about this already, so there's no point for mentioning about that again, so, and also, since we're still on the crocodile transformation, and it's a good thing that we did manage to not only try to break for that little icicle block from earlier ago, but also that we did manage to able to unlock the next world instantly, which is Freeze's Peak, that basically that we can able to actually just use a crocodile transformation of Banjo to able to actually fit through those little small holes, and that way it allows me to able to actually just to see what's beyond on the next room or something. So yeah, that's how it goes basically. So in the third and final round, as you can see, that's basically that you need to pay attention to the top screen now, because if the actual thing shows up, like for instance these red nipplings, as far as I like to call them, that basically is the fact that you're gonna have to eat them as what is shown on screen. So because of that though, if you eat the wrong one, then you basically get stunned for about a few seconds notice. So it's gonna be a lot of emphasis on timing if you're trying to able to win these kinds of challenges like this. So yeah, best of luck basically if you really want to win these kinds of challenges like this. Even especially noticeable towards the very end of the game, that then again, we'll talk more about that once we get into that specific progression, so but I digress. So even then though, yeah, for Bubblegloop Swamp, it's actually a pretty cool world, at least as far as I can tell, because the forms of the music is kind of atmospheric at the very least, but even then though, it knows what it is when it comes to saying that impression. So yeah, there we go, and we managed to able to win by 3 points, so awesome stuff. So if you manage to win all 3 rounds, basically, no, I don't want to talk to you, Mr. Phil. God dang it, why do I run into you? So yeah, you can able to actually rematch against with him, but it does absolutely nothing aside from just giving you extra lives, which honestly is kind of pointless. So anyways, the Jiggy is what I'm after. So because of this though, yeah, we're basically 100% for everything in terms of Bubblegloop Swamp. So awesome. So in this case, we are 4 worlds down and only quite a few worlds to go, including the forms of Grand Tortoise Lair, basically, because that world also has, or that particular hub world in mind, also has Jiggies as well. So because of that though, yeah, expecting to be more hyped to able to actually just try to accomplish certain things. So before we leave, I need to able to grab more gold feathers, kind of think about it, before we move on to the next few worlds. So just in case I can able to actually just get some progression in mind. So anyways, let's go back into this little exit pad, and, well, basically, before we move on, and especially noticeable, before we get ourselves the next, Jiggy from the likes of that particular Grand Tortoise switch I just active, basically is the fact that we need to hit back into the exact same location as what I did from the earliest point of this part, and basically that's, well, rather than just trying to able to, well, you probably get the idea. So, yeah, as you can tell, that we now can able to actually go through this little hole over there, that right where the gold feather is, and basically, it's only accessible if you're in crocodile form. So because of that, you will find this little fella, which appears to be Cheeto the Spellbook. So because of that though, I think there are only 3 of those Cheeto the Spellbooks to find. So this is the first one, and we'll find the other 2 later down the road, specifically for its useful tips and tricks here and there. Which I don't think I can able to mention about that anytime soon, but regardless of everything else though, I would able to mention more about it once we get too close towards the end of the game. So yeah, that pretty much summarizes as such. And this will give you the forms of that specific code if you try to able to find that, you know, the actual Sand Castle section in Treasure Trove Cove, and basically that you would able to actually find one of the 3 cheat codes you can able to use. Like for instance, for example, the first code I somehow come across is the Blue X code. And if I somehow manage to input that code, basically, I'll talk more about that once we're able to actually get into, like, you know, getting close towards the end of this particular Let's Play, like I said before. So because of that, though, there's not much right to home about. So either way, though, now of course I will find the forms of all 3 of those Cheeto, the spell books, in, specifically in this Let's Play in mind, even though we've already found one. So because of that, though, there's no point able to actually just to point it out. So, yeah, that's Bubblegloop Swamp. So, pretty nice little world. Usually it gets, like, too much green and all that stuff, which, despite I'm not a big fan of green to begin with, but it knows what it is when it comes to the theme setting, so There we go, we'll transform back into Banjo and Kazooie themselves, and before we leave, if we approach onto this left hole, basically we come across into Brittany, the fairy right here. So in this case, oh jeez. Alright, so let's see what she has to say as well. Okay, ST Dignall's College? I think that's what it's called. But then again, though, yeah, it's been a while since I actually did manage to play this, though. So, hopefully I'll play more on this in, you know, the next coming days. So, yeah, that's how it usually goes, basically. So, again, I must admit, I do apologize if my commentary itself gets a little bit, stale at points, mainly due to the fact that there's not much else to talk about. Aside from I've already mentioned quite a number of things. But, regardless of everything else, though, that's what I can honestly try to say. But before we continue, there's another Brittany over there. So because of that, we can able to talk to her in a pig stray. Okay, that sounds a little bit gross. Joy wants the biggest butt competition at which school? Oh gee, that might have sounds a little bit more silly for that specific, you know, humor and all that stuff, which, it usually uses that now for most kids' films nowadays, which I just absolutely have no idea. Sitting on her broomsticks. Okay, so that'll be, kind of useful when it comes to able to, you know, towards the very end of the game, so... Anyways, let's go ahead and continue our progressioning for the sake of this, point right there. And we'll actually unlock the next note door, which requires 260 notes to collect. But since I actually got, you know, 400 musical notes total so far, so this means we actually got enough for able to actually get some progression there. So, but anyways, let's try to destroy those little blocks that's been sealed up these doors, or these little sections, as far as I like to call them. And activate that switch, which actually activates the shock drop disc, or the shock drop jump disc. Sorry for a little bit of a tangent right there. And basically, if you manage able to actually get another Jiggy, well, we're gonna have to go through this little pot, and basically they'll transport us in here. And thankfully, if you manage to like obtain a Jiggy, the cage will actually open. So thankfully you don't get trapped instantly, because otherwise, if that will happen though, it'll make the actual thing really unfair. But thankfully that's not the case. So anyway, so now we're done with that, and I suppose we should probably hit on to the forms in the next room, which before we get into that, I need to double check what's behind in this little tombstone right here, which appears to be like of course, the mumble token, of course. So, of course, then we still need to able to collect more of those, you know, mumble tokens along the way. So just in case we can able to actually come across into another transformation, which, again, eventually at this point, what if we move on to the next few worlds, basically the mumble tokens requirement is actually getting increased. Like, obviously, we've already come across into one from the likes of cost about, 5 mumble tokens. And then, obviously, we already come across into one, which, obviously cost about, you know, 10 mumble tokens. So eventually it goes like 15, 20, and eventually at the end, 25. So, yeah, we still need to collect a ridiculous amount of those, you know, mumble tokens to be more specific. So, yeah, that's how it goes, basically. So, yeah, I'm afraid to tell you for this point, guys, we got endings off at this point right here. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Banjo-Kazooie. Is that we are moving on to Free City Peak. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later, fellas.